Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark from the United States.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mark from the States. How are we doing today? I am doing fantastic. I hope you are as well. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today. Today being the 4th of July, the one day that we actually say the date the same as you. So weird. July 4th, Independence Day, our Independence Day. Yes, you all know it's Good Riddance Day, I think, as I've heard a lot of you say, which I just absolutely love. Yeah, looking to have some fun today. I am not at a cabin this year. Normally we go to a cabin up in the mountains, we go to the lake, we do the whole thing. We've got so many trips, so many things that we're doing. We decided to stay home and celebrate here locally, and boy, are we doing something very different today. A little bit later on this afternoon, we're going to pack up a picnic basket, if you will. You know what I mean. It's going to have some wine, it's going to have some food in it, some other adult beverage, I'm sure, and we're going to go to a cemetery. Yeah. It's actually called Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and it's where all these legendary celebrities and non-legendary celebrities and singers and artists and bigwigs in the entertainment industry are all buried. Look it up, Hollywood Forever Cemetery. They have a list of people who are buried there. Anyway, so we're going there. Why? Well, we are going to watch a movie, Top Gun. Can't get any more patriotic and, America than Top Gun, the original, not the remake, not the sequel, but the original. And we get to watch this movie, be able to enjoy a cold one or some wine, which is what I'll be doing. And then after the movie, there's fireworks. So this is a thing they do at this cemetery. We're not sitting on gravestones, in case anybody asks. We're not leaning up against a headstone. They have like an entertainment space, an event space in the cemetery itself. It's just all grass. Nobody's underneath us. And they have a big movie screen, and they do this all the time. So looking forward to that. Never done anything like that to celebrate Independence Day, and I'm excited to do it for the first time. And I will definitely probably take some photos and maybe some video. I say that a lot, and I really do intend to show you, and a lot of it I do, but man, I still got wine country photos that I'm going to do a video on British wine, hopefully, if I could just find the right one, and I will show you a lot of those photos of my trip. But come sit with me today. Chris Green, history chap. We are going to learn, and what's more, July 4th-y, if you will, than James Bond. This is telling a story about Ian Fleming, the real James Bond, and his secret World War II service. Now, I did know, I've learned over the course of having this channel with all of you, that Ian Fleming was in the military during World War II. I've seen the movie Operation Mincemeat, so I know he was central in that. And I believe he got the idea for James Bond during that time, and so on and so forth. So we're going to get the true story from Chris. 2 links below, as always. I know a lot of you already support Chris. He does a live stream Fridays, and they talk history. Really good to get. So I encourage you to go do that. And he also has a newsletter. You could sign up. It's free. Sends you one every weekend to kind of give you this week in history, kind of cool, which I love. Anyway, he's a great guy. And I have 2 links, one to his channel, one to his to this video that we're doing. So please use them. Get over there. If you got 1 like, 1 subscription to give today, I encourage you to go over there and give it to him. With that said, okay, I think I've covered everything. Big Fake Couch, Chris Green, History Chap. I'm in the box, yes. We should have a new channel tomorrow, I think, maybe. So hopefully we'll get to that. Let's get to the video. Let's do it.
Most people know Ian Fleming as the creator of James Bond, the suave, ruthless, martini-sipping spy of Her Majesty's Secret Service. But what fewer people realise is that Fleming wasn't simply imagining Bond's world. He lived in it. From the Admiralty's secret Room 39 in wartime London, to covert missions in Lisbon, commando raids in Nazi-occupied Europe, and one of the greatest deception plots of the Second World War, Ian Fleming's wartime career reads like a plot of a Bond novel. Only it all really happened. This is the story of Ian Fleming's Secret War, and how it shaped the most famous spy in fiction. Long before Ian Fleming was dreaming up spy missions for Room 39, he was a rebellious teenager struggling to find his place in the world. Born in 1908 into wealth and privilege, he was the second son of Valentine Fleming, a Conservative Member of Parliament and British Army officer, who was killed in the First World War. His death left Ian in the care of his strong-willed mother, Evelyn, who had high expectations. Fleming attended Eton College, where he shone at athletics and writing, but clashed with authority. His rebellious nature, and an alleged affair with a maid, led to his early departure from the school, a source of embarrassment for his family. He then enrolled at Sandhurst to train as an army officer, like his father, but again Fleming didn't last long. He found the rigid discipline stifling and left before commissioning. Hoping to refine his future, he was sent to study languages in Munich and Geneva, with the goal of entering the Foreign Office. But after months of study, Fleming failed the entrance exam. This string of false starts led to a career in the City of London. He became a stockbroker with Rowe and Pittman, one of the most reputable firms of the time. But
Did not know that. I don't recall hearing of any setbacks or anything like that, and certainly stockbroking. I would never have guessed, but it certainly does seem like that has so many failures early on have shape a person, especially becoming as successful as he did.
he became a stockbroker with Rowe and Pittman, one of the most reputable firms of the time. But Fleming found that work dull and struggled with the routine. He later moved into journalism, joining Reuters, and here he showed real promise, reporting on a Soviet show trial in Moscow in 1933. He had a nose for a story and an instinct for intrigue, traits that would serve him well later on. Still, as the 1930s wore on, Fleming remained a man in search of a cause. He had intelligence, charm, and a talent for observation, but he certainly lacked direction. That direction would come with the Second World War. In the spring of 1939, as tensions in Europe deepened, the Royal Navy began assembling the sharpest minds it could find to prepare for the oncoming storm. And one of those minds belonged to Ian Fleming. He was recruited by Rear Admiral John Godfrey, the newly appointed Director of Naval Intelligence. In his 50s, Admiral Godfrey was a seasoned naval officer, having served in the First World War and later as a skilled staff officer and director of plans. Before the war, he'd commanded the battlecruiser HMS Repulse before being appointed into his current intelligence role. Known for his blunt manner and encyclopedic memory, Godfrey was not always easy to work with, but he was a visionary, and he saw in Fleming a rare mix of intelligence, connections, and creativity. It was Godfrey who became the model for the fictional M in Fleming's Bond novels. The gruff, no-nonsense chief who commands from behind a desk, but whose orders reach the farthest corners of the world. Fleming was installed in the Admiralty's top-secret intelligence,
Horse Guards.
Room 39, located within the old Admiralty building in Whitehall. It was a small room, but its influence stretched across continents. From Room 39, British naval intelligence directed espionage, sabotage and deception operations around the globe. Room 39 gave Fleming a front row seat to the inner workings of British intelligence. It was here that he began to see how a single piece of information, a decoded message, a planted rumour, a forged letter, could change the outcome of entire campaigns. This was the world that forged the foundations of James Bond. Fleming's official title was Personal Assistant to the Director of Naval Intelligence, but in reality he was far more than a glorified secretary. In his early days there, he drafted top-level intelligence memos and operational briefings, as well as acting as a liaison officer with MI6, the SOE, Bletchley Park and Allied commanders. Sitting in on high-level strategic meetings, often absorbing more than he contributed, he began to sketch out ideas, bold, sometimes outrageous, for how to win the war in the shadows. Possibly his best-known idea was Operation Mincemeat. Among the audacious deception operations of the Second World War, Operation Mincemeat stands out as one of the very best. And though it was executed by Charles Cholmondeley and Ewan Montague, the inspiration lay in a suggestion found in Fleming's 1939 Trout Memo. The Trout Memo was a short, sharp document on how to deceive the enemy, written in the tone of a field guide for a fisherman. It began with the line, "The trout fisher casts patiently all day. He frequently changes his venue and his lures. If he is frightened to fish, he may give the water a rest for half an hour. But his main endeavour, viz. To attract fish by something he sends out from his boat, is incessant." In it, Fleming and Godfrey laid out 54 suggested tricks, gambits and stratagems. Number 28 was especially striking. Plant false papers on a dead body and let it wash ashore to deceive the enemy. The plan was macabre but ingenious. A body was procured, that of a homeless Welshman, Glyndŵr Michael, and disguised as a Royal Marine officer named Major William Martin. Attached to his corpse, a briefcase containing classified documents falsely outlining Allied plans to invade Greece and Sardinia. The body was set adrift off the coast of neutral Spain in April 1943, where it would almost certainly be discovered by German informants embedded in the Spanish authorities. And it was. The Germans fell for the ruse entirely, diverting their troops away from Sicily, which was in fact the true invasion target. The deception probably saved thousands of Allied lives. It would later be turned into a film, The Man Who Never Was, and more recently, Operation Mincemeat, starring Colin Firth.
Very entertaining movie. It's got some good actors in it. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's fun. I want to kind of go back. I find it interesting how he was kind of drifting, not really, like Chris said, no direction. And it takes this major event, this being World War II, to really hone in his perfect skills, and which then, while great intelligence guy, leads to what he's most famously known for, creating James Bond and so on. It's always interesting to kind of see what life nudge, pushes someone in the direction to where they become this famous, very highly successful person. And it's something that he didn't plan on, he didn't create. It was the war that nudged him into that direction, which then spawns an amazing life. You know what I mean? But you see it a lot with real successful people where they're just kind of floundering, in life, not really knowing what to do, but they just got all the skill in the world, but they just don't know what it is. And it takes this life-changing event major event that just kind of, it's like, here, let me help you, point you in the direction to go. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Whilst Fleming didn't plan the operation, the notion of planting false documents on a corpse was lifted directly from his Trout memo. It's one of many moments where Fleming's imaginative leaps, dreamt up in room 39, turned into deadly reality. Back in 1940, with Hitler dominating Europe and Franco's Spain walking a diplomatic tightrope, Britain feared that Spain might join the Axis. The consequences for the Royal Navy would be disastrous. German forces could then seize Gibraltar, closing off the Western Mediterranean. Fleming was tasked with drafting contingency plans. The result? Operation GoldenEye. Operating from the Portuguese capital of Lisbon, which was a hotbed of espionage at that time, he established secure communications between Gibraltar and London in case Gibraltar was taken over, recruited agents inside Spain and Portugal, and prepared sabotage teams to wreck roads and railways if Spain declared for the Nazis. Though Spain remained neutral, the operation stayed active throughout much of the war, a hidden fuse waiting to be lit. Years later, Fleming would name his Jamaican estate after this secret operation, GoldenEye. Among Fleming's most theatrical plans was Operation Ruthless. The goal? Stealing a working Enigma machine or codebook from a German rescue vessel. Method? Crash land a German bomber in the English Channel. Disguised British officers posing as Luftwaffe survivors would await rescue, and when the German patrol boat arrived, the men would kill the crew, seize the vessel, and recover any intelligence on board. The Admiralty were intrigued, but after lengthy discussion, the plan was deemed too risky.
Oh, no way.
The odds of surviving the crash, finding a boat, overpowering its crew, and returning with the prize were judged slim at best.
That's true.
Still, Operation Ruthless captures something essential about Fleming. A mind always thinking one step beyond, unafraid to propose morally ambiguous and sometimes outlandish ways to outwit the enemy.
I mean, if they would have done that, then, the very, very true story of U-571 with Matthew McConaughey and how the Americans recovered the Enigma, very true, by the way. Sorry, I couldn't keep a straight face saying that. No, hogwash, got it. That would have been an incredible mission, and I could totally see it working. I mean, but yeah, I get it. Because once you do that once and it fails, then the enemy, this particular enemy, it will start to always suspect something, maybe, and you wouldn't be able to bruise them, fool them down the road. But that's fascinating. Didn't know that.
And in a war fought as much in the shadows as on battlefields, that kind of thinking mattered. Fleming's wartime world wasn't confined to Britain. He liaised with some of the most influential figures in Allied espionage. In New York, he worked closely with William Stevenson, the Canadian-born spy master codenamed Intrepid. Stevenson headed British Security Coordination, BSC, from an office in the Rockefeller Center, running propaganda and counterintelligence across the Western Hemisphere. He was everything Fleming admired: tough, resourceful, secretive. Many believe Stevenson was also the model for both M and for Bond himself.
Fun fact, Rockefeller Center, also now where they house all the television stuff, like Saturday Night Live is filmed there. Tonight, or it's not called The Tonight Show now, is it? Anyway, you don't get it, I'm sure. The Today Show, which I do think you get a variation of, maybe. Yeah, all the program television stuff is filmed in the Rockefeller Center too.
Even more consequential was Fleming's relationship with Alan Dulles,
That guy,
an American OSS officer based in Switzerland.
That guy is shady as F, and I am not a fan. And his role in the JFK assassination, if you don't know, he was in charge of putting together the Warren Commission, who did the report on JFK, him, and he was the head of CIA. And when JFK was there, and they butted heads all the time, and he was, in fact, JFK was gonna, I'm not quite sure what it was, but he was gonna demote him or something, or, take out some power. He was all about power. He is a central figure in that assassination. Not trying to be tinfoil hat here, but that guy, not a good person.
Dulles would later become director of the CIA and a great admirer of Fleming's novels. In fact, Dulles once asked Fleming to advise on real spy gadgets. Fleming responded with a list: poison darts, camera pens, exploding cigar boxes, all ideas that wouldn't seem out of place with James Bond's Q character.
Totally.
These friendships blurred the line between reality and fiction. Fleming's Bond wasn't created in a vacuum. He was distilled from the traits of men like Stevenson and Dulles: intelligent, ruthless, well-connected, and always one move ahead. In 1942, Fleming proposed a new kind of commando unit, not to hold ground, but to seize enemy secrets. And thus was born 3O Assault Unit, known as 3O-AU. These elite troops, mainly drawn from the Royal Marines and specially trained in signals, demolition and close combat, were designed to move fast behind enemy lines. Their target? Enemy headquarters, research centres, codebooks, radar blueprints and weapons prototypes. Fleming, though based in London, was deeply involved in shaping the unit's identity. He wrote mission briefs, identified targets and helped coordinate with other branches of the military to ensure 3O-AU had the support it needed. It was in many ways his own private army, a real-world incarnation of the kind of teams he would later describe in his novels. 3O-AU began as a small, mobile force of fewer than 80 men, but expanded to over 200 by the end of the war. It was divided into sections that combined signals and cipher experts, explosives and demolition specialists, linguists and interrogators, and some frontline combat personnel. Each mission team operated semi-independently, allowing for rapid strikes in the wake of Allied advances. They were attached to conventional forces but operated under direct guidance from naval intelligence, often from Fleming himself. This model would become the blueprint of many of Bond's solo or small team missions in the novels. Think of Bond breaking into the enemy fortresses
Is that
in
Moonraker? Yes.
or retrieving vital tech in Thunderball. The link is unmistakable.
I loved this movie, and I'm like, yeah, that looks like the sub base in Moonraker. I have to say, and you could certainly let me know, I would love to know. Sean Connery, of course, great. But for whatever reason, Roger Moore is always going to be my favorite Bond. And I think that's maybe because I kind of grew up watching Roger Moore as Bond. He was Bond when I started watching the Bond films. Moonraker may have been either Moonraker or The Spy Who Loved Me. I can't remember who. Or was it The Spy Who Loved Me? Or was it From Russia with Love? Or, wait, no. I'm confused here. It's the one with Carly Simon does the theme song. Nobody does it better. That's The Spy Who Loved Me, right? Yeah, I think it was that one. It might have been the first one. But him and his battles with Jaws, Richard Kiel. Oh, so cool.
Their baptism of fire came during the North African campaign. In ports like Algiers and Tunis, they raided enemy command posts and naval offices, recovering enemy code material and fleet deployment documents. The success in Africa led to new missions during the Sicily landings and the long slog up the Italian peninsula. In Sicily, 3O-AU targeted radar installations and captured advanced equipment that would be studied by British scientists. In Italy, they gathered intelligence on German shipbuilding and U-boat activity in the Mediterranean. Again, their work echoes Bond's reconnaissance of underwater facilities in For Your Eyes Only.
For Your Eyes Only.
Landings in Normandy in June.
That's the... Gosh dang it. That's the one. For Your Eyes Only. That has to be the one. Not The Spy Who Loved Me. See, I get him confused between Sean Connery movies and Roger Moore movies. For Your Eyes Only. I think it is For Your Eyes Only. For Your Eyes Only. Yep, that's it.
June 1944, and in the months that followed, that 30AU came into its own. Landing shortly after the initial assault troops, they moved quickly into Cherbourg, where they stormed the German naval headquarters and seized critical documents, maps and cipher machines. In Paris, they raided the abandoned Gestapo headquarters, scooping up thousands of files on collaborators, informants and Nazi political agents. These were later used by Allied intelligence to dismantle the German espionage networks. As the war entered its final phase, 30AU raced towards the heart of the collapsing Reich. In Bremen and Kiel, they targeted U-boat pens and seized data on the Type 21 submarine, a revolutionary design far ahead of its time. In the chaos of Germany's defeat, 30AU's missions were part commando raid, part treasure hunt, and part forensic sweep. They captured research on advanced radar, rocket technology, nerve agents, and jet propulsion, all of it vital for the post-war intelligence race. Bond's later battles to prevent the theft or misuse of cutting-edge weapons technology, as seen in Moonraker and GoldenEye, owe much to this period of 30AU's work. After VE Day, 30AU was disbanded, its purpose fulfilled, but its legacy lived on. Some of its members would go on to serve in the Special Boat Service and early Cold War intelligence units. The unit's tactics, fast, targeted, intelligence-led raids, became a model for future Special Forces operations. Fleming would later say that James Bond was a highly romanticised version of a commando of 30AU. For all his contributions to Britain's secret war, Ian Fleming's service in naval intelligence was not without controversy. While admired by many for his sharp mind and daring ideas, others viewed him with scepticism and at times resentment. Fleming's rapid ascent, bypassing traditional military channels to work directly under Admiral Godfrey, raised eyebrows. Critics accused him of being a desk-bound adventurer, a man with flair, yes, but also with the luxury of connections. Winston Churchill, for instance, was a family friend.
Of course. I don't tend to really put a lot of weight into that sort of thing. I mean, you always to succeed. You always need to know somebody. It's really hard to succeed without knowing somebody. And if I'm related to Churchill, you dang well know I'm going to use that if that is something I wanted, right? As reference. Ridiculous. Jealousy.
He'd never fought on the front lines, yet wielded considerable influence over operations that put other men in mortal danger. His creation of 30 Assault Unit also sparked friction. Some in the army and SOE saw 30AU as Fleming's pet project, a shadowy outfit that sidestepped traditional chains of command. There were accusations that its operations overlapped with other units, and questions about whether the intelligence it gathered always justified the risks taken. Then there were the ideas that went too far. Operation Ruthless, Fleming's plan to recover Enigma codebooks by staging that fake plane crash and killing the German rescue crew, was considered morally dubious even by wartime standards. It was never executed, but it revealed a streak of dark pragmatism that would later define James Bond's approach to espionage. Yet, despite these criticisms, few denied that Fleming brought something unique to the war effort.
And here's the thing, the one they allow him to do, not the one, but one of the ones they allow him to do, who would have thought, granted, nobody was really at risk per se. It's not like crashing and then having to overtake a boat, but this one in particular here, Mincemeat, pretty out there. And you gotta hand it to him. You gotta think out of the box, especially in that field.
Imagination, innovation, and a novelist's eye for detail and drama. In the world of wartime espionage, where nothing is quite as it seems, Ian Fleming was both player and storyteller. During the war, Fleming had attended an Anglo-American intelligence meeting in Jamaica. He fell in love with the Caribbean island, and after the war moved there, purchasing a stretch of land on the northern coast and building a home that he named after his wartime operation, Goldeneye. There in 1952, he sat down to write the novel that would change his life. Casino Royale, published in 1953, introduced the world to James Bond, the hard-bitten British agent 007 who gambled with his life and drank with weary detachment. Bond's missions were wild, his adversaries colourful, and his methods ruthless. But underneath the style and spectacle was something very real. Fleming's understanding of intelligence, war, and moral ambiguity. The novels poured out, one a year. Each one took inspiration from Fleming's wartime work. There were the secret Nazi files of Moonraker and underwater weapons tech in Thunderball. His stories included Smersh and Soviet assassins drawn from his wartime counterintelligence, and introduced us to a series of villains with scientific obsessions and megalomaniac tendencies, not unlike some of Hitler's own inner circle. Bond's world was an extension of Fleming's own, just with better suits, faster cars, and a license to kill. In 1962, the very first James Bond film was released. Dr. No starred Sean Connery and was the first of 27 films to date featuring 007. A heavy smoker and drinker, Ian Fleming died from a heart attack in August 1964, aged just 58.
Oh, wow.
He was buried at Southampton in Wiltshire. Ian Fleming never parachuted behind enemy lines. He didn't kill with his bare hands or sabotage enemy headquarters. But he did shape some of the war's most imaginative operations. He did write the mission briefs for men who stormed U-boat pens and radar stations. He did sit inside the Admiralty's most secret room and draft plans that misled Hitler and changed the course of battles. And from these shadows, he created something extraordinary. A character who captured the imagination of the post-war world. James Bond was not Ian Fleming. But without Ian Fleming's secret war, Bond would never have been born. Well, thanks for joining me today,
awesome.
and I hope you enjoyed that story about the real events that inspired Ian Fleming to create James Bond 007. If you'd like to support my channel, then please consider becoming a member, a patron, or making a one-off donation. There's details below.
Yeah, get over to Chris's channel. There's 2 links below, one to his channel, one to this video. I encourage you to get over and support him. Oh, it's important that you do. I had no idea that Ian Fleming died that early. I thought, I don't know, for whatever reason, I thought he would be around to see the movies. At least a few of them. But if he was writing a book, he started when it was 52, he died in 64, so that's 12 years. Was it 64? I thought they said. And if he was writing a book a year, they're on the 27th movie. Is that how many there are? Dang. I love James Bond movies. Very fun. I didn't think I knew that all these titles were really kind of central to a lot of the things that he experienced. That's so wild. I get them confused. There's so many of them, and it's hard to remember exactly which one went with which. For Your Eyes Only, You Only Live Twice, Spy Who Loved Me. It was one of those 3 was the first one I'd seen. I believe it's For Your Eyes Only, because I remember that theme song, and they're famous for their opening songs, right? And that one was one of my favorites. That one and the other one I mentioned, the Carly Simon one. Hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe. That was a lot of fun. Go support Chris. Enjoy his channel. I know a lot of you do. I know this is not a day. A lot of you had to work today, or those who are still working had to work today. I have it off, obviously. So I'm not sorry about that. And this is actually our real, as they say, No King's Day. None of this other stuff that they've been yapping about, but it's all good fun. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. You've made this channel, our channel, so enjoyable. So thanks for coming and hanging out, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And we'll see you soon. All right, take care. Bye.
Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark